everyone, it's Elizabeth here from Muse Fitness. I just wanted to come on today to talk a little bit about lunges. So lunges are one of those exercises that a lot of people have trouble executing correctly, and where some people actually feel either a lot of imbalance in or they feel pain in their knees. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we can correct your form in a lunge and what it should feel like and how you should be engaging your muscles to get the most out of your lunge. On top of that, we're going to talk about how you can do a slight modification to target your glutes a little bit more in your lunge. So today we're just going to work on stationary lunges, meaning we're not going to be tapping a foot in and out, we're not going to be walking our lunges, we're just going to keep our legs where they were and just execute a lunge. So the first thing you want to do, and I'll just show it to you straight on, is when you set up for your lunge, we want to keep our feet hip width apart. So we don't want to line up that back foot so it's in line with our front foot for a number of reasons. One, it's going to turn out this hip, which we don't want. We want our hips and our shoulders and everything to point square. And it's also going to give us more stability if that back foot is in line with the hip on its own side, same with the front. So the more we can get our legs in alignment with our hips, the more stability we're going to have. So that's the first point of the setup. The second thing, and I'll show you from the side, is when we get into that position for our lunge, we want to be up on the ball of the foot, okay? And you want to have your knee pointing towards the floor. So a lot of times I see people setting up like this, where they start lunging and their foot is turning in this position where the toes are pointing out, where the heel's pointing in. Again, we have poor alignment with the hips. We're going to be stressing incorrect areas of our body that we don't necessarily want to do. We want to keep everything nice and square and straight, okay? So we have those two parts. So first we've got our feet hip width apart, nice long lunge stance. Knee is pointing forward, our heel is pointing to the sky, and our shoulders are over our hips. So from there, what we want to do is think about pushing into our front heel, so keeping the toes light and bending that back knee towards the floor. So we want to think about tucking the pelvis under and then just going straight down and up. So we're not changing the hips, we're not allowing that leg to turn out, we're not rocking forward and back. So this is something that I see a lot as well, where the back knee is not bending. And then what happens, and the reason why a lot of people feel pain in their knees, is because they tend to do sort of this rocking forward motion. So you can see that I'm driving my weight forward, okay? And so for a lot of people, this is a lot of pressure into the knee. So what we want to do is think of being very linear. It's really helpful if you have a mirror next to you, because you can watch your body. Or if you do have something that you can kind of see on your side. So let's say you have this seam here as a line that is vertical. If you were to line the center of your body up with it, when you go straight down and up, you should feel like, if you look at that line, that you are staying straight in line with it. So if you feel yourself going ahead and behind that line, it's going to indicate to you that your form is not quite correct, okay? Now, there are exceptions to the idea of leaning, and this is where I wanted to talk a little bit about how you can target your glutes a little bit more in this exercise as well. So once you have your technique down for your basic stationary lunge, where we've got our feet hip width apart, heels pointing to the sky, we're bending that back knee towards the floor. Now, if I want to target my glutes a little bit more, I'm going to hinge from my hips in my lunge. So I'm not rocking my body forward and back. The hinge is literally coming from my hip, from this area. So my weight drives into the heel more. You can still see that my knee is over my ankle. So I'm not driving my knee past my toes at all. But what this is going to do is really make my glutes tighten up a lot more. So I'll show you from a different angle, or let me just use the other leg here. So if I take my other foot forward, get into that hip width apart lunge position, when I come down, if I hinge forward from the hip and not drive my body weight past my toes, I can really feel my glutes tighten up on this side. And again, I want to really think about pushing into the heel and not my toes all the time in your lunges. If you feel your heel lifting, you're probably going to get pain in your knees. We want to try to avoid that, okay? So using a mirror is really, really helpful to check your form. That's why gyms have mirrors everywhere. It's the only way for you, when you're learning new exercises, to get that information so that you have the mind-body connection. Once you watch yourself doing a specific exercise with correct form a number of times, you'll start to feel it in your body and you won't need the mirror anymore. But of course, it's always good to check every once in a while just to make sure that are you staying straight? Are you rounding your back? Are we driving past our knees? Things like that, okay? But if you find yourself unstable, make sure that your feet are at least hip width apart. Make sure that your hips and everything is pointing forward, so our toes are all going in the same direction. We're high up on that back heel. We're driving straight down. Squeeze your butt, push into that heel. And then again, if we want to work our butt a bit more, you're just gonna lean forward. So it's kind of a leaning lunge from that hip area, pushing into that front heel, imagining like you are pushing a hole through the floor as you stand up. Okay, so for breathing, we would breathe in. So you want to exhale on your stand from your lunge so that your breathing matches your exercise. Typically when we're doing our workouts, we want to exhale when we're doing the work. There's only some things where it's the opposite, but for most exercises, you're going to want to exhale when you're exerting energy and inhale as you're setting up for the work. So I hope that helped a little bit. If you have any questions or any comments, please let me know. Otherwise, I will see you next time and have a great night.